Hello everyone, this is Mrs. P. KARTHIKEYANI, Assistant Professor, Department of Statistics, Trinity College for Women, Namakkal. Now we are going to see the detailed study of statistical inference. Statistical inference is the branch of statistics which is concerned with using probability concept to deal with uncertainty in decision making. It refers to the process of selecting and using a sample to draw inference about population from which sample is drawn. In statistical inference, we have two types, that is estimation and testing of hypothesis. In estimation, we have two types, that is point estimation and range estimation. Point estimation is a single value, that is the data is a single value. In range estimation is also known as interval estimation, that is the value is between the two variables. Now we are going to see the detailed study of testing of hypothesis. The testing of hypothesis. The hypothesis is educated assumption about the given statement. In testing of hypothesis, we have 5 steps, that is null hypothesis, alternative hypothesis, level of significance, test statistic and inference. Now, what is null hypothesis? A null hypothesis or hypothesis of no difference between statistic of a sample and parameter of population or between statistic of two samples nullifies the claim that the experimental result is different from or better than the one observed already. That is, there is no significant difference between the population and sample. The null hypothesis is always denoted as H0. Alternative hypothesis. Alternative hypothesis of significant difference states that the sample result is different, that is greater or smaller than the hypothetical value of population. It is denoted by H1. Then what is characteristics of hypothesis? Hypothesis should be clear and precise. Hypothesis should be capable of being tested. It should state relationship between variables. It must be specific. It should be stated as simple as possible. It should be consistent with known facts. Level of significance. The level of significance is the maximum probability of attaining the type 1 error. It is the significance probability on the basis of which null hypothesis is rejected is called the level of significance. It is denoted by alpha. Now, what is meant by type 1 error and type 2 error? We have 4 types of possible outcomes from the null hypothesis is tested. First one is the null hypothesis is true but our test rejects it. Second, the null hypothesis is false but our test accepts it. Third, the null hypothesis is true and our test accepts it. Fourth one, the null hypothesis is false but our test rejects it. Now, type 1 error. Type 1 error is rejecting null hypothesis when null hypothesis is true. It is called alpha error. Then type 2 error. Accepting null hypothesis when null hypothesis is false. It is called beta error. Then test statistic. A test statistic is a statistic used in statistical hypothesis testing. A hypothesis test is typically specified in terms of a test statistic, considered as a numerical summary of a data set that reduces the data to one value that can be used to perform the hypothesis test. Inference. Inference is conclusion, that is result. The statistical inference is the process of analyzing the result and making conclusions from the data subject to random variation. It is also called inferential statistics. It helps to access the relationship between the dependent and independent variables. Thank you.